How you doing, everyone? Welcome to the best real estate investing advice ever show. We are doing a Facebook Live. If you have any questions, feel free to, you can comment below, and we'll address those either on this episode or next week's episode. So with that being said, Theo, you ready?
Kick it off, Joe.
Jack, you ready? Yep, he's ready too. Best ever listeners, how you doing? Welcome to the best real estate investing advice ever show. I'm Joe Fairless. This is the world's longest running daily real estate investing podcast. We only talk about the best advice ever. We don't get into any fluff. With us today, Theo Hicks, and if you're watching on video, you can see Jack, the Yorkie, is with us today too in a more active way on my lap. So Jack, how you doing? Theo, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing well too. Welcome back. Theo is in Florida, Disney World.
Orlando, Disney World.
Disney World. He is back, and we got a lot of good things to talk about. In particular, we're going to talk about ways to add value and increase profitability of small multis, and it came from a best ever listener question. So we'll talk about that. Theo, how do you want to kick it off?
I do want to start by giving some updates on what you got going on in your business, the good, the bad.
Sure. Let's see. Really nothing groundbreaking from last time we talked on the show. Just continuing to finalize the due diligence on the property we're purchasing in Dallas. We're closing the week of September the 10th.
Okay.
And fortunately, we have a really good team within Ashcroft, because I'm actually going on my honeymoon September 1st through the 11th or 12th maybe. But Frank, my business partner, and you and others have got things covered. That's really it. No major news. I mentioned last week I finished Ninja Selling. I am now reading Commercial Real Estate Mortgages. The author is a previous guest, and I can't recall his name right now. So maybe next week I will, if you remind me, I'll bring the book and I'll give my 2 cents on it so far. I'm about 30% of the way through. Other than that, that's it. What do you got going on?
Well, I'm gonna ask if you I guess kind of what you're talking about when you're going on your honeymoon. If you didn't have a partner, didn't have a team, you probably would have to skip your honeymoon and end up closing out this deal or kind of pass on the deal. So are you going to kind of, you don't need to be involved in the closing, right?
I don't need to be physically present.
Okay.
For the closing. In fact, I don't think we've ever been physically present for any closing. We do it remotely. I am involved in the closing, looking at the closing statements and things like that. But Frank, my business partner, is also the primary point person on that particular area of the business. So he's got it covered for me while I'm doing the honeymoon. I
was getting lunch with an investor the other day, and he was saying that because he's kind of traveling around right now, and he did a closing remotely, and he had to go into like a UPS, and he had like a stack of like 100 documents he had to sign and then scan them all in. He said it took forever.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming you get do the same thing, scan all the documents, because I don't think they have like an online signing service that I know of.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll overnight you documents, and you have to sign it and get it taken care of. Yep.
Cool. So on my end, let's see what it is I have. So I've got all my rents. So that's a positive.
You got all the rents.
Got all the rents. Wow. It's funny. I'm sitting in the airport on the 5th, and for some reason some of the leases, the rents aren't due until the 5th of the month, and so it says the 1st, but they have until the 5th. And so obviously they go with the latter date and not the earlier date. I'm sitting in the airport, getting ready to leave, and one of the residents calls and says, like, "Hey, did you take my rent yet?" And it's like, what do you mean did I take your rent? It's like, "Oh, I sent you my debit card number to take my rent." And I was like, "Oh, I think she just must have gotten confused based off of the online service they were supposed to use." But no, she ended up sending me a check, so I picked it up yesterday.
How did she send you the debit card information?
Just an email.
Oh.
I think it was I don't know if it was a miscommunication on my end, but I remember she sent it and was like, "What is? I don't understand why are you sending me your debit card information for me to buy something."
Right.
So there's that, and then I guess something else interesting that happened. I was talking about how there was a damage done on the this is actually the same person. She's like the only person I've talked to. She used to call me probably different things that are happening, but she had some drywall fell from the garage under her car, and it put a dent in there. And I took some pictures, and I didn't really know how to address it. I didn't know how much it would cost, but I knew that she didn't based on the way that she was asking me questions about it, based on the way that she explained the issue to me. It seemed like she just wanted like money, like she didn't want to actually fix the car herself. And so what I did is I went around and I got a bunch of quotes, and then I kind of took the average of the quotes, and it was based off the images I sent. So obviously it wasn't 100% correct, because if they went in there and saw that it looked different, it would have been a different cost. And then I reached out and said, hey, here's a couple of options we can do. You can either take it in yourself and get it fixed, and then I'll reimburse you, or I got a couple of quotes. Here are the quotes, and I can just write you a check for the damages. And she went for that option instead. So I'm pretty sure I saved money doing it that way. So that was
how much did it?
A plus $195.
$195, and is she signing something?
I have not
that
got it
says
signed. No.
I won't come back for future damages on this. And is there no, right?
No, the only thing that I have is an email trail.
Okay, and the email. Have you paid her?
Yeah.
Okay. Did she sign something that said she received it? Was it a check?
I wrote a check and I put it in her mailbox.
Okay. Probably fine.
Yeah,
but
if it's not fine, then I'll learn a lesson. I'll definitely have something signed for next time. I remember we even talked about that in one of the episodes, and when I dropped the check, I didn't even think about it. But yeah, no, I've got the email trail, and I mean, I'm putting a lot of, I guess I'm in a sense of putting a lot of trust into the resident for not, oh, Theo, I went and get it repaired, it ended up costing $5,000, I want more money, or I'm not paying rent ever again, or anything like that. So
I'm sure it'll work out.
Exactly.
We have faith in people.
And then I think besides that, I had a really good conversation with Linda Libertori of Secure Pay One, because she was listening to one of our shows where I was talking about how I was taking over the property and what I was doing to get the rent sent to me and things like that. And we had a really good conversation. You can find our conversation on YouTube. It's entitled "How to Take Over a Property with Tenants" with property management expert Linda Libertori. It's about a 40-minute conversation where we literally went step by step exactly what you want to do from prior to closing to maybe a month after having the property, and so the whole entire process of taking over. And she's been doing this for a long time, and she does it constantly. So she has a lot of interesting stories and interesting case studies of how things went wrong. But most of the conversation was kind of me explaining what I was going through, what I did, and what I did incorrectly. And I think one of the you don't watch a bit of it. I think one of the most interesting pieces of advice that I'm going to apply moving forward that I didn't even really think about is to, on like a 6 month or like a yearly basis, have like an application for the each individual unit to fill out, and you do that to make sure that the people that are on the lease that are living there are actually living there, and that no one else is living there. And then you kind of do a little walkthrough with them. So you go to the unit and you walk through it with them to kind of check up and see if there's any type of issues that they were talking about. And then something else did it too that I thought was really cool, because I had no idea what to do about taking over a property that's not necessarily like extremely distressed. Like you don't need to do any repairs for it to be habitable or livable or anything like that. But it's also not an A property or a B plus property. It's kind of outdated. It's 1950s Technicolor tiles and everything. And so I didn't really know what to do about addressing any kind of maintenance issues. And what she said is you go to each unit and say what's one thing you want done to your unit, and that way you're not bombarded with a whole list of different repairs to do, but at the same time you're doing something right away that's like adding value to them, so you're kind of getting started off on the right foot. And it also will help if you want to, increase the rents, kind of what we were talking about, like you don't want to just go in there and increase the rents and not add any value, because it's not starting on the right foot. If you go in there and the first thing you do is improve something that was kind of annoying them, whether it's something small like a cracked window, or there's a hole in the wall, or a burner on their stove is out, and then you address that one issue, and then it's not really kind of what we talked about before, like the unexpected, because they're expecting it, so it's not like the ideal way, because I guess it'd be better if you unexpectedly fix something, but you wouldn't really know what it was to fix. But so I plan on doing that this month when I go in there to meet everyone and sign new leases, and there was one thing that you want addressed.
When you ask them that one thing and they tell you and then you fix it, a suggestion would be to fix it and then say, and you know what, I noticed that XYZ needed some attention, so we went ahead and fixed that too for you.
There you go.
And then you can pick what that other XYZ thing is. Could be super simple.
Well, I think the only drawback to that strategy, and I'll talk about it when I actually do it, but my fear is that they're gonna want something like big that costs like thousands of dollars to do. Can you replace all my appliances in the kitchen? So I need to word it so that it's like not. I'm not saying like you can't respond by saying I want to repair my entire unit or update my entire unit.
It's a repair.
Yeah.
Anything that needs one thing that needs repaired or addressed.
So I can make sure that I word it correctly, but
regardless of how you word it, it's going to be misinterpreted.
I know.
It doesn't really matter how you word it. You just know what the line is, and you'll just have to have a conversation with the people who ask for granite countertops and stainless steel appliances.
Exactly. So those are the updates on my...
Congratulations on getting all the rents for it, because I know last week you had what percent?
I think I had 7 or 8 out of 12.
7 or 8 out of 12.
Percentage that is.
Yeah. Well, congrats on that. That's great to hear.
And luckily, most of it was like a mix-up or communication issue. It wasn't like I just didn't hear from them. Mm-hmm. It was they were confused on how to submit the rent online, or they didn't like the fee and they wanted to mail it, or they didn't know how to make the checkout too. So it was kind of just confusing. So next month, I expect everything to move smoothly. If not, then we'll talk about it on here as a mistake.
Cool. Sounds good.
So we got a question from a listener, and his name is Devin, and he asked, what is your experience with charging multifamily residents for assigned parking spaces? And so it looked as if he had a medium to large sized apartment complex, and he actually had a picture in his question, and it was just newly paved parking lot with just parking spots, and he wanted to know what's your experience with just charging for parking? And I guess to kind of add an additional layer to the question, maybe you can talk about what are the different parking options that you can do, and what are the benefits of doing a carport versus just a regular spot versus constructing a whole brand new parking garage, based on your experience.
Well, I'd say all roads lead back to that particular property and its current situation relative to the competition in the market. Because this is if you are charging for parking, then there needs to be a demand, right? Supply demand. There needs to be demand for it. And you also need to be within the market parameters, or you need to be competitive with the rest of the market.
Okay.
Therefore, the first thing I would look at is the current parking situation at the property. I love using the extreme examples to make the point. If you have 100 residents and you have 400 parking spots, or 100 units and you have 400 parking spots, then you're probably going to be hard pressed to charge residents for. So you need to look at what type of demand and how special is it to be able to have your own parking spot. Now let's assume that it's a typical apartment community where you have 2 spaces for every 1 unit. because that's typically the ratio that, at least that I've come across. Now, on new development, they're looking to decrease that because it's just not needed. People don't drive as much if they're in New York City, or if they are in a new development that's most likely close to a bunch of retail and so bars and things like that. But let's just assume, typical scenario, for every unit you have 2 parking spots. Well, if that's the case, then some things I would look at doing is one, a resident recognition program for long-standing residents, because what your goal, or what your question, Devin, is ultimately getting at is, can I make more money at the property by can I make more money at the property through the parking situation in some way? So instead of looking at it, can I charge for parking spots, look at what is your number one expense at the property, and it might be tenant turnover. So if you can increase resident retention by giving residents a prime parking spot, and that is very convenient for them. They get their groceries and they can just scoot right into their apartment, versus having to go around all these cars and over the curb and stuff. If that increases resident retention, then you now no longer have move-out costs, advertising, marketing costs to get the new resident in there, tenant turnover costs. So it's likely that the $3,000 that it would cost to turn over the unit all in is a greater amount of money than charging $25 for your parking spot in the prime location. So look at it in multiple angles, not just can I charge for the spot. Look at it from a resident retention standpoint and see if that would actually make more sense, if that can increase resident retention. But to directly answer your question about my experience charging multifamily residents, well, we do the approach I just mentioned. We built carports, and we are building carports. The advantage to building carports versus just you charging for a prime spot in front of someone's building is, well, it increases the value of that parking spot, assuming that the area is hit with either really bright and hot sun, which Texas is, a lot of hot sun, wind in the north, snow in Texas, hail. So you got a lot of reasons why you want a carport in certain cities. And we charge $35 depending on the unit, or depending on the property, to do that, and we make 20-25% return on those. So tends to be a good investment. To give you an example of how many we build on a property, we're planning on building 50 on a 250 unit property, roughly 250 unit property. So that gives you an idea of how many we build. 1 per every 5 units. Yes, one per every 5 units. So we're not building for every parking spot. We're building selectively in certain areas where it makes sense.
Yeah, you made a really good point. I never even thought about it that way before. But when you're kind of addressing this specific question of should you charge for parking, or kind of what we're going to do next, which is about ways to things that you can do to add increase your profits. Making sure that if you're doing something, you may be adding more money on one hand, but you might be that you charging for that might affect your tenant retention, or someone might not want to live there because I can get free parking over here. What would I pay for parking here? Just kind of just thinking about, okay, if I'm going to do something here, will that it's not going to happen just in a vacuum. It's going to potentially affect something else, and just kind of thinking about that before you kind of make that decision is a really good point.
Yeah, there's That's what I try to do with most things. If it's how can we make money on this, well, is there a larger item that we can address to ultimately solve what we're really trying to solve for, which in this case Devin's talking about just having a better NOI at the property. And one of the things that I always keep in mind is, and this is relevant but not directly related, is our number one expense would be taxes. As entrepreneurs and real estate investors, number one expense, taxes. And so often we do all the work on the income of the property, the expenses of the property, but then from our overall tax standpoint, we don't have the right CPAs and tax analysts to identify how can we mitigate our number one largest expense, taxes.
Yeah.
So.
And to put things in perspective about taxes, I was looking at my I was looking at my cash flow calculator the other day to update some things because some of our expenses were lower than what they actually I assumed them to be, and just the property taxes alone are 25% of our rents that we come in. I mean, that's just a property tax. That's not like the potential tax that you pay on the income at the end of the year. I wish there's a way that you could address that, but I think there's a couple things you can do, but not really. You guys gotta kind of bite the bullet on that.
Cost segregation.
Yeah, cost segregation
will help with that for sure.
Yeah. I might have it. That's so high. It seems like it's just so high. I guess I'm.
Well, and you can protest too. Yeah, cost segregation will just lower your tax basis in general for what you pay or what you realize. But then the actual assessment itself, you could protest depending on where you're at. And we actually did an episode with someone who talked about the appeal process and how to protest.
Yeah, I remember listening to that one. So the main topic is kind of similar to Devin's question about charging for multifamily, but when I read that question, I was kind of thinking of different ways to increase your profits, so either decrease expenses or increase your revenue. And we were kind of talking beforehand, and now I'm thinking about even more. Now again, you have to think about for all these things I'm on the list here, is this going to have an effect on something else? And we were kind of talking about in regards to time. So, for example, one of the things that I kind of calculated. What we're doing is ways to increase profits on small multifamily properties.
Got it.
And one of the main things that I saw on the first property that I bought that was a huge expense was landscaping. So I literally had, people can't see the room, but I had like a strip of grass that was like the size of this room, and the guy was charging me. He's cutting it every week, and it was $15 a week for that one. And I'm not sure exactly what that'd be out to, but that's $15 times 52 weeks. And I had to pay him at the end of the year. During the year, it seemed like, I'm making all this money, and then at the end of the year, I got this bill for a couple $1,000s. And for that property in particular, if I would have mowed the lawn myself, it'd probably take me 15 minutes to do. And then so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to mow the lawns for these next properties until it becomes so overwhelming or unmanageable, or my time would be worth more spent somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so right now it takes me an hour to mow there's three lawns, and we just did a quick calculation beforehand, and that saves me $2,000 a year. And so that's a profit increase of $2,000, which for these properties in particular, the bank that I use, they actually use they didn't use a sales comparison approach. They use the income approach. So that'd be $2,000 divided by whatever the cap rate happened to be for an increase in the property values. Now, so the question is,
that's usually factored in appraisals, how they usually factor in those costs. So I don't know if it would necessarily increase the value of the property, because when the appraisal takes place, they factor it as though how it would be run professionally.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they wouldn't they wouldn't look at my actual expenses. They'd be like, okay, well, Theo's managing it himself and Theo's doing the maintenance himself, but we're going to underwrite it as if someone else is doing the maintenance and someone else is doing the property management.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it does not add value to the property, but I guess it adds $2,000 a year
to your bottom line.
My bottom line
in exchange for your time.
In exchange for 26 hours of time for $2,000. So yeah.
26. So what is that an hour?
I think it's a little bit under $100 an hour. Let's do the actual calculator.
Okay, 26 divided by 2080. Oh, wait, yeah.
2080 divided by 26.
Divided by 26, $80 an hour. So
Yeah.
are you good with that?
I'm good with that. So I can't remember if it was your podcast or if it was a blog that I read, but they were talking about the $10 an hour, the $100 an hour, and $1,000 an hour jobs. And as you progress through your business, like you start, your time in the beginning is worth not worth anything. So it's worth like $10 an hour. It was like what you would be paid, or what you would pay to do what you were doing, or something along those lines. And then as you progress, then your time's worth $100 an hour. And so all those $10 an hour tasks you were doing, you contract all those out because you're losing $90 per every hour spent on those $10 an hour tasks. And then once you become, where you're at right now, and your time is worth like $1,000 an hour, then even though the contract out those $100 an hour jobs now, because then you're losing $900 per hour spent. So right now, I think I'm at that $10 an hour job, and so me doing this $80 an hour job, I'm saving $70. At least that's kind of how I'm calculating. Again, as time goes on, if it doesn't.
So you're $10 an hour right now?
For my properties,
Right.
yes.
All right.
That's how much I'm my properties.
All right.
So that's one thing, and so along the same lines of brainstorming ways to decrease expenses. Something else that happened a lot at my at the last property is like really small maintenance issues would happen. Like the dishwasher would stop working, or last night I got a text and the guy's lock wasn't working, and it ended up being completely fine. I assumed that he just put it in there and to see how it didn't work and they just text me right away, but it ended up working anyways.
Did you have to go over there?
I did not know, but if I did, if I would have sent someone over there, it would have been $100, $200 for a 10-minute ordeal. And so I was talking to Marcel about this, and for these small maintenance issues that will take 15, 20 minutes to address, instead of paying our contractor who I've already had him go over there and do a couple things, it's $100, $200 here and there. Mm-hmm. And based off our maintenance budget, we've got $600 a month per property allocated to maintenance, and so I'm going to go over there and address these smaller maintenance issues for a year, and then kind of calculate and see how much time I spent there versus how much money we saved. Kind of calculate that dollar per hour, and there's more than $10 an hour then, and in our opinion, we save money. So that's something else that I thought about, and something a key point on that. And I remember I was having some conversation with people at the first conference about this, and kind of other miscellaneous investors that I've met, and they'll just use YouTube tutorials for kind of everything. There's literally YouTube tutorials. There's little YouTube videos for fixing anything, and so they'll go in there and just pop dishwasher's not working, how to fix dishwasher doesn't drain, and they'll watch a 2-minute video on how to do that, and then they'll do it themselves. And so kind of leveraging technology and leveraging YouTube to increase your profits, I thought was an interesting approach. It was kind of what led me to do this. Mm-hmm. Something else is, and this kind of again goes back to, will this decrease tenant retention, but coin operated laundry versus just buying a washer and dryer and putting it in there. I calculated the ROI of buying a washer and dryer versus just doing the coin operated. And fortunately for me, the previous owners actually own these washer and dryers, the coin operated, so it's 100%. But I know there's some services that charge 50%, so they'll take half of the money that goes in there. So that's another way.
Well, on another angle with that is to buy the washer and dryer and then rent it to the resident at a more competitive rate than what they could get at Rent-A-Center. And just keep doing that, and then eventually you'll have it paid for by them, and then future tenants or future years, it will just be infinite cash flow.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, buy washer and dryers and rent to them. Yeah. So I think something else you could do too is just obviously buy the coin operated washer and dryer and do something similar, or you can kind of calculate how much you would charge for the laundry and dryer based off Rent-A-Center, or based off how much money it would be to do one load of laundry per week at a laundromat, something like that. Something else that I ran into some guy at my gym, and he was talking about this. But apparently there's services out there for duplexes or fourplexes or these smaller multi-units where the water is not broken out per unit. They can put in these. It costs. I think he said it costs $75 a month to do, and it is. They do something where they essentially charge they meter the water off to the individual units and then charge the actual residents for the water. And so, you get charged for water every 3 months, and so $75 times 3 is $225. And I think our water bills were between $400 and $600. So that's kind of a cost savings right there. And that's something else, I guess, is one less thing you have to worry about paying off too.
And that will increase the value of your property. We do that on all of our properties.
Okay.
A RUB program, ratio utility bill back system. There are companies out there that facilitate that for you. And the thing to keep in mind is that's an expense that the resident didn't already have. Therefore, it's basically a rent increase of X amount of dollars. So you want to make sure that what's the competition doing? Are they doing it? If not, then are you competitive enough to be able to pull it off and have that increase amount of money that the resident is paying out of pocket on a monthly basis?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the last one I have, and specifically for smaller properties, is property management. And so again, it's important, at least from my perspective, to figure out how much time I'm spending doing the property management duties per month based on how much money I would be spending on a property manager to make sure that it's worth my time. One other small caveat as to why I think that I'm going to, continue to do property management is because I'm starting to toy with the idea of actually doing a property management company. So kind of having my own property management company run my properties and maybe in the future bringing on other people's properties. But that's something I'm kind of just a thought and floated through my head based on some conversation I had with a couple of investors. And so that's for smaller properties. If you're interested in a list of ways to increase your profits on larger properties, we've got a document with over 25 ways to 25 multifamily value add opportunities for simple upgrades up to these more expensive advanced upgrades like building a carport or adding in a daycare center. And so if you want to have that document, you can send an email to info@joefairless and just put multifamily value add opportunities in the subject line, and we will send that over to you.
And it's not, this document also had, it's after we went through it and created it, I think it's big, medium, and small multifamily properties, because you've got adding in light fixtures. Upgrade the light fixtures. You can do that anywhere. But then you have larger stuff like renting out the clubhouse, pet fees. That's any property. Assigned parking. We talked about that. Upgrade packages for appliances and some other things that is rarely discussed, but it's a truly great way to add value. Two ways actually come to mind. One is adding a room. Maybe you got a big old 1-bedroom, but if you can add a wall and make it a 2-bedroom, what's that look like? And the second is the carport stuff. I forget what the second thing was. It's in this document. You can just get the document and then you'll be able to see all 25. So info@joefairless.com, and we'll get you that value add multifamily document.
Okay, a couple of other miscellaneous items. So we've got a new Facebook community called the Best Ever Show Community. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, real quick. Finally, after 3 years of doing this show, we have created a Facebook community for you and the rest of the Best Ever listeners. So you can go to...
So it's just Facebook search Best Ever Show Community.
Best Ever Show Community. And the reason why you'll find value there is because we talk about the episodes that launch a lot of times with the guest who was interviewed on the episode, so you can engage with him or her. Additionally, any real estate related questions or topics or even entertaining articles that are related to real estate, like the world's most expensive house recently being for sale, and what that would cost to rent out and still cash flow. We talked about that. So go to that community, and you'll be the Best Ever Show community on Facebook, and join the conversation there too.
Other item, 2018 Best Ever Conference.
Yeah, real quick, the conference website will be up today, if not tomorrow. besteverconference.com. The reason why you want to go there now is because we've got early bird tickets, and the early bird tickets will allow you to save $100 on the ticket, and it's for the 2-day event, February 9th and 10th in Denver, Colorado. You'll love it. I'm confident of that. And you can go watch the recap video of last year. The high quality, the high caliber of attendees who were at the last event, and the experience and the level of conversation was what everyone was talking about, and how it was the highest quality of attendees and conversation out of any conference people have attended. And that's a testament to you, Best Ever listeners, and how freaking intelligent you are, and looking forward to meeting you at the conference if we didn't meet already at the last year's conference.
Awesome. And to wrap it up, we're going to do the review of the week. So if you enjoyed these conversations and are finding value in these conversations, please subscribe on iTunes and leave a review for the opportunity to be the review of the week. This week is from Breathe to Prosper, all the way from Portugal, international. And he just said, the best real estate investing advice ever is a great podcast. Joe is a great guy and provides lots of values to listeners. Definitely recommend this podcast.
Sweet. And you said he, but we don't know if it's he or she.
You're right. He/she from Portugal.
Thank you. Breathe to Prosper. Appreciate that feedback, and would love to read. Looking forward to reading more on future episodes. So thanks for spending some time with us, Best Ever listeners. Hope you have a best ever weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.